Next session we will start talking about robotics with the talk of Christian, which is the lead researcher from the defense team from India. Again, if you want to hear more or just test for your own use case, SOPA Python 3, run SOPA 2, I'll be one of those tomorrow morning. So if you want to be with us, just to have some hands-on, you can join us tomorrow morning. So it's my pleasure to have the presentation right now of Christian. And if you wanna get Christian with a short talk and so on, you can grab him just after at the coffee break because he needs to leave shortly afterwards. Just for you to know, he's gonna talk about robotics and more especially soft robotics.
I will be there on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday for those who stay. Okay, so I will do actually two talks. One is about contact and stiffness control of deformable robot, and the other one will be on a presentation on a robotic arm that we have developed. So this work has been done in collaboration on stiffness control has been done in collaboration with Stanford University, where I had the chance to stay for 7 months last year. So the kinematic of robots are well known, and of rigid robots are well known. They are derived from the geometry. So basically, knowing the geometry of the robot, you can derive the Jacobian, and this Jacobian is mainly used by roboticists to control the robot. This Jacobian relates the position of the actuators, actually the displacement of the actuators to the displacement of the effector. When it comes to soft robotics, it's more complex, particularly because if you change the material properties, for instance, if I take this very simple soft robot with a cable that you pull, you change the material stiffness, it will change the kinematic of the robots. If it's stronger at the base, okay, you see that here it's stronger at the base, so it's deformed less for the same amount of displacement. So, in fact, we have developed a model for this, the equivalent of this Jacobian, and you can write it as this equation. Sorry for those who can't see the equation. So it's the compliance with the matrix W, which is the compliance matrix, and I will explain you what is the compliance matrix. So basically, for a given force, okay, you can have a given displacement in the end effector. But what you want when you want to have a Jacobian is not how much you relay the force here in output for the given displacement in output, it's the given displacement you want. So you also need to use the compliance on the actuator space. So basically for the same force, you have a given displacement here of the cable. And if you use these two matrices, okay, and you inverse the second one, then for a given displacement here, you know the displacement in output. And you obtain the kinematic model. And how we can obtain this kinematic model, how we can obtain this compliance, we obtain it with the FEM model. So basically, you have you can build a FEM model of your robot using SOFA, and you compute the internal force of your robot, and then you can define a set of constraints for the actuation. And so basically, you obtain this. Okay, I take the case where you are quasi-static. So basically, you use a linearization of the internal force at each step of your computation, and then you have to solve a matrix system, and you use a constraint-based model where the Jacobian is the direction of the constraint force, like the actuator force. You have the Lagrange multiplier for the effort, and here the delta will be the displacement of the cable. Okay, and if you use the Schur complement of this, it gives you the compliance. So if you particularly, if you can use a constraint for your actuator, one constraint for your effector, and if you use the show complement, you have the matrix I showed you before. So of course you need here the inverse of the linearization of your force. Here, A, matrix A. So it requires some computation. It's expensive, but we have used that many times in SOFA, so you have many components that can handle that efficiently. So now that you have the show complement, what we can do with that, we can first compute the inverse model of the robot. So the idea is that basically imagine that you have a robot, okay, you want to pilot the end effector of your robot, and so you need to know how much displacement you need to apply on the actuator. So basically you can set an optimization, quadratic optimization, saying I want to minimize the distance of the actual position of my robot and the desired position of my robot. And when you minimize this, and you find the amount of force you need to put on the actuator. Yeah. And basically you can even put some constraints. So you can say that here on the cable, for instance, you only want to pull, not push, because you cannot push on the cable. And you can also limit the course of your actuation if you have a limited course. So here, in fact, you find the same matrices I showed before. You have the matrices that links the compliance between effector and actuator, and the compliance at the actuator space to define the course of the actuator. Okay, so if you solve that, you can find the inverse model of the robot, and I will show you an example just after. But I just explained here how you solve this minimization problem. So it's a quadratic programming problem. If you want to control many configuration of your robot, so if you have more effector than actuator, so in fact your problem is convex. Usually it's not the case because you have usually more actuator than effector. Here in the case I will present today, we have usually like 8, 9, 10 actuators, and we want to pilot maybe 3 positions of the effector or 6 positions. So in that case, it's not convex. I will come back to this later, but if your problem is convex, then you have a unique global optimum. So yeah, this I will not go into too much detail, but if you have so more actuator than effector, then the matrix is not definite. So there's no unique solution. So we need to add a new objective. So basically, this new objective is to minimize the energy of the deformation energy spent by the robot when it's moving. And you can compute that with the mechanical work in the actuator space. And you can add this as a small value in your objective function, and then your problem becomes convex. And it gives you this example. So with this example, we have 8 cable on a soft trunk, and you see you can pilot the end effector of the robot in SOFA, okay? And you apply the inverse problem to the real robot. And we have a quite good match between the. Now the idea is that the whole interest of having a soft robot for me is the fact that this robot can come into contact with their environment. The traditional rigid robot, there was a whole field of people working on collision avoidance. So you usually with a rigid robot, you want to avoid collision. Here, the idea for me is to find new strategies where you use contact, because it's what we do in our life, everyday life. We are using the contact for doing our task. So if we want to add contact, so we have the problem of dealing with the complementarity constraints. So what I mean by complementarity constraints is the fact that when you have a contact, you have in fact 2 states in the. You add a constraint, constraint, but it has two possible status. Either you are really in contact and the force is strictly positive, either you are not really in contact, and in that case the force is zero. And you have to deal with the fact that you have two status in your constraint. So you can reformulate the quadratic problem with this contact, but you have to deal with this complementarity constraints due to contact. So of course it's a little bit less simple. So how we have it's called the QPCC, quadratic programming with complementarity constraints. And the way we solve it is that we imagine that you have a contact here, okay, and you want to go this way. Okay? So you have a first set of contact that is active. So you can add this contact which is active in your QP by activating the contact. And then, so you solve a first inverse problem. And you are looking if there is another contact that can pivot from something that is inactive to active. So here you see that there was a contact that was inactive that becomes active. And then you pivot, you add this constraint in your set of active constraints. You resolve a new QP, and then you are looking if there is another candidate or not. If there is no new candidate, you have found the solution. And this way we can basically solve the inverse problem with contact. So here we have the same chunk. The objective is to reach the two goals. You see, if we have this obstacle that is not modeled, we see that here the inverse problem finds you to actuate this way, and you see that you are very far from the objective. Okay? And if we So the idea is that we will add the contact in the simulation, and also the cylinder has a sensor in it, so we can capture the position of the obstacle. Okay, now we have the obstacle into so far. We integrate this obstacle into the inverse problem, and we see that it automatically found how to inverse the problem to reach the objective. So I think this could have other application than robotics, actually, this algorithm. But, here we are using it for soft robotics. Okay, now the idea was to say, okay, one other advantage of soft robots is that they are soft, okay, but maybe we can also pilot their stiffness, not to have something always soft, but sometimes rigid, sometimes soft, and actually being able to render the stiffness, which is particularly useful for doing haptic. So what we can do, in fact, is having something that basically, again, use the inverse problem to actuate the structure so that it's render a force. So here we have, imagine that you have a virtual environment. Okay, you have a soft device actuated, and you want to render a given force. You can actuate the device so that you render the real force. Okay, so the idea is to say now imagine that you want to render a given stiffness at the tip of the robot. This is also well known in rigid robotics. We can control the actuator here to render a given stiffness here. Can we do it in soft robotics? Yes, we can do it. So it's what we did with Margaret in Stanford. So she was doing her PhD on haptic rendering with soft robots. So we again use the same formulation with compliance. And basically the idea was to look at how to change the compliance in the actuator space. So, like in the actuator space, you can really change the compliance because you are actuated, so you can control the compliance here. But what you want is controlling the compliance here for a given compliance that you desire at the end effector. So we did a little bit of math. It's what you have here. Okay, and the idea was to test it on a device. So basically, this device is so we have a force sensor to evaluate the results. We have a deformable structure, which is very simple, with two actuators. And here, on the actuator space, here we control the stiffness of the actuator. Okay, for a given displacement, it gives us a given force. And what we are looking is, so basically we use, as important thing, we are using a first inverse problem to evaluate the position of the device. Okay, so when we push on the device, it will move the motors, and we basically found with the model of SOFA where is the position of the end effector. And also we can change the given stiffness in the actuator space to provide what we desire. And basically you have the result here. We have a desired stiffness, and in blue you see what we obtain on the real device. So you can see also the video. So here it's the real device, and here it's this device in SOFA. You can see the fact that the motor here are reversible. So when we move the device, it makes the motor move, and we found, thanks to the motion of the actuator that we measure, we can reconstruct the position of the whole device. Also, it's also based on the inverse problem that I presented before. And then we can produce somehow a virtual environment where basically we can provide the apparent stiffness on the effector space. To allow that, we had to have two different loops. One at low frequency for SOFA, and one at high frequency to recompute this stiffness rendering in the actuator space. So basically, in SOFA, we compute a coefficient here of stiffness in the actuator space that we share with the motors, and that is recomputed the stiffness at high frequency. Okay. So here it was the first test, and recently it's not even published. It's just the first time I present that. We have developed a version with 6 motors and 5 DOF effectors. So here you can pilot the robot not in 2D but in 5D. Basically, you have 3 translation and 2 rotation. Okay, and one of the big difference of this robot compared to the 2D version is that here we added a flex sensor. So basically, we have a mean of measuring the position of the robot. Basically, these flex sensors are very cheap. You can place it on the arm, okay, and basically it measures the deflection of the leg. And you can also integrate a new constraint in SOFA that takes into account take the measurements of the given by the flex sensor and evaluate how much the leg has moved. So basically, what we did is we have built a small optimization, basically, based on the measurements we give so we move the robot in many possible directions, and to evaluate this matrix H, we basically take the input of the simulation, the input of the flex sensor on each position, and we have a fitting algorithm that fills basically the matrix H automatically. This allows to have something, because these sensors are very cheap, but from one to another, you could have some big difference in terms of value that it provides. So it's a way of calibrating the device. So basically what it's doing, it's like, this is the fitting function, and basically with this fitting function, again we have so given the position of the motors and the position of the flex sensor, you see that we can reconstruct in SOFA the whole position of the device. So when we move the device, we can reconstruct fully the position of the motor, of the configuration of the robot in SOFA. And so it means that we have a measurement of the end effector without having any sensor typically on the end effector, which is very interesting. And it's actually very precise. What we did is that we put we use an OptiTrack system to track the real position of the effector, and we compare that to the position given by SOFA. And it's, you see, it's show that it's very, very precise. So in the workspace of the robot, we can, without any sensor on the end effector, just with the flex sensor and the position of the motor, we can capture the real position of the effector. We also did work on the workspace analysis, so it's a little bit difficult to understand this, but basically what you can imagine that we did some, here all these cycles are like slice of the workspace, okay, of the effector. And in blue it's when it's reachable, and in white it's when it's not reachable. And also in the color shows the actual force that you can have that you can reproduce with the device. So you see that if you use a stiffer material, you can reproduce more force on your device. Okay? But the problem is that if you have here, here is the column corresponds to the torque limits. So if you are using infinite torque, of course you can have a better workspace and greater force. But if you use a real actuators with a torque limit, you see that if you increase the stiffness of your device, you limit the workspace. Of course, because at some point the actuators are not able to move the device; it's too stiff. If you use a not too stiff robot, you have basically the same workspace. Like here, you are not limited. You see that you are not limited by the torque. It's the same infinite torque and limited torque give the same workspace. Here, the limitation is due more to the maximum rotation of the motor. So it's interesting because you really feel that the design is a compromise. And we use that as a haptic device, and we had a promising first test. So first, as we measure the configuration of the robot, we are able to measure actually the position of the end effector, but in fact, indirectly, we also have the force that the user is applying on the device. Because we know the rigidity of the structure. So basically, you are able to do both admittance and impedance. So for those who are not familiar with haptic rendering, to perform admittance on a traditional haptic device, you need to have a force sensor. But here we do not have any real force sensor. But as we are measuring the flexibility of the structure, and we are able to know the force that the user is applying, basically we have somehow a force sensor on the device. So both admittance and impedance are possible. An interesting property that is also given by the flex sensor is the fact that we can render, a stiffness that is higher than the real stiffness of the device. So if we fix the motor position, okay, you have a given stiffness on your device. But here, if we want to have more stiffness, we can actively control the motor so that when the user pushes on the device, in fact, the motor will move in the other direction to counter-actuate against the user. So in fact, we have a control stiffness that is higher than the real stiffness of the device. and this allows to also increase the workspace. That's it for haptic rendering. I don't know if we take a question or if I move to the second presentation.
Yeah, we can maybe take one or two questions, and maybe just be late for the next coffee, but yeah. Two questions from the same room.
Hi, thanks for the presentation, amazing work. My question is more about soft robotics in general. I was wondering what is preventing today's soft robotics to be widely adopted? I mean, outside research, and is there any limitations preventing that?
So for me, so I will give my own opinion. So I think the field is quite new. Even if there was, you can find in the literature very old, like in 72, 3, like people like developing a robot that is deformable, but then nothing else till basically the beginning of it was 2010, like the really first growing of the community. So I think it's a young community first. The second thing is that, and that's why we are working on this. There's a lack of modeling methods. Basically, in traditional robots, you can easily control your robot. I showed the models are quite simple. Here, of course, given the fact that your robot is the model of the robot is depending on the deformation. Of course, you need to the models are much more complex to integrate. So that's why we are working on this. And also in the design process, it means that if you integrate, for instance, a sensor. So for instance, here we integrate a sensor, but so this sensor is very flexible. But if your sensor change the properties of your robot, then it means that you also need to iterate on your design when you are doing it, because it could change your model, so it could change the performance of your robot, etc. Whereas in rigid robotics, whatever material you are using to build your robot, it will not change the behavior of the robot. It could change the dynamics, but not the kinematics. So there are some differences that make it more complex to do, and but we are in the good path, I think. I hope. I think there are some, like in surgery or particularly in robotics at home, etc. There are many applications of soft robotics where I see that it's much better also for helping people. You have this orthesis that exists, active orthesis that exists with rigid robotics, but it's you have to put a motor, rigid legs. It's not easy to wear. Whereas with soft robotics, you can probably have better solutions. So I see promising direction of use for soft robots. Let's hope that it will happen.
Just about what you said about the material composition being really important in the modeling part. Me, when discussing with manufacturers, when you say, I want to build this device with this material, they tell me, okay, I can build it, but the material composition of this material in particular, it's not going to be exactly as you're asking it. There's going to be a tolerance. And would this be a problem when you have a model that's depending on...
Actually, I will talk about it a little bit on this next presentation. Sometimes the model doesn't fit exactly to the real robot. It's what I will show here. And Maxime also, I think, will talk about he will talk about like closed loop. Then you can integrate sensing.
So, just a very good question. Yeah, it's thanks for the talk. It's about if you have because you show some example about haptic rendering and workspace, and I don't know if you have some figures already, or if it's too early to compare to some existing haptic rendering products. Because I guess you you told like you have the ability to change locally like the stiffness of your rendering because you can sort of predict what would be the best course of action to take to increase locally the stiffness. And I don't know how, if you measure already some based on some workspace you experimented with, the kind of stiffness you can render.
So yeah, we have to do a test basically. We bought a rigid robot in the team. That the idea is to use this robot with a force sensor to act as it was a user and study like the performance to have like more experimental data in terms of what stiffness we can render exactly on the real robot, not only on the model but on the real robot. We have to do this test basically in the coming weeks or months.
I saw so Adrien, and then we'll
Thank you.
then we'll move on.
Great talk. In the cable model, it seems like when you pull on the cable, you assume that the force is transmitted all the way through the end of the cable. And in real cables, there is friction, and that this might be responsible for the oscillations of the tentacles that we saw. I don't know, I have no idea, but do you plan to integrate a more sophisticated model of the actuators in the model? Do you think it's needed? Do you think it's possible?
So, in fact, we can integrate friction in the direct model because we already have friction model in SOFA. So it's not in the direct model. I mean, you know the displacement you want to impose on the cable, and you found so with the simulation how much displacement you have at the effector. So for the direct model, it's possible. We already have some friction model, but for the inverse problem, it's another issue because then you have a new complementarity. So basically, I talk about the contact which already add a new complementarity problem. If you integrate friction, you also have a new complementarity problem in the inverse problem, so it makes it more complex to solve. The way we are solving today the problem, it's more with so basically we assume that the model will not be perfect. But the idea is to add sensor and to close the loop and basically control what has not been taken into account in the model can be corrected by the control loop. That's
So, yeah, I was just wondering if you had developed specific tools to optimize the shape of the robot, because another thing that is really important for the soft robot is that, of course, material properties will have a significant impact on the result, but also probably the shape. And I had the feeling that it's really coupled, like, it will also impact the well-posedness of the program and also the number of solutions potentially you could have, and probably also the force, the amount of force you will be able to render at some point.
It's a good question. I think we just developed a tool for having the workspace. So it's a new tool that we developed. I think so. For me, this is a good thing to evaluate actually So if you do optimization on the design, you need to have a fitness function. So to have this fitness function, we need a way of computing the results we obtain on a given design. This is the first part of the answer. And the second part is to have an algorithm that can optimize, so you have to have a parametric design. So we did that on very simple example. For instance, on the robot leg, where we can parameterize the shape of the leg, and you use genetic algorithm to optimize basically the parameter of the design. So this requires a lot of simulation tests usually. That's why also in the team we have a work going on allowing to launch SOFA on a cluster because then in that case it's you may have to launch thousands of simulations to evaluate each new design parameter when they change, how much it influences your fitness function. But it's a long way for me. And I think it will always be local optimization. I don't believe you can that the algorithm will find by itself a very nice design like that. Maybe I will I will be I will be happy to be forced, but I really believe that today it's more like I have an idea of a shape. I have some parameters that I want to optimize, and locally I can test the different parameters to find the optimum.
Okay. I think there is, at least I have other questions, but
Yeah,
I think we'll have other opportunities at least next week. For those who are interested in robotics and soft robotics, so there is also a workshop next week in Lille. So
I will just present very shortly the.
Yeah, definitely. So there will be a second talk. It's about actually the robot that you see here, which is I think right. It's called Echelon 3.
Yeah.
And I'll let you continue.
So it's basically I show you this device made of silicon that was like a small trunk, but the idea is to use for inspection. So you can imagine to have a camera at the tip, and you can do inspection even with collision, as you saw. So you already see this first version, and we implemented a new version so with a stronger version for like a new room that was developed at INRIA Lille, which is made for like translation between research to companies. And in this new design, we have 3 sections, 9 cables, and 1 moving platform. And we are using 3D printed. Everything is 3D printed, and in fact, we call that like vertebrals because we were inspired by the spine. And there's also a change, which is the transmission of the cable. So you have at each section, you can have a tube inside the background that basically transmits the force like you have. Magnetic sensor that is able to measure the real position of the device, and we use a PID controller that is basically shooting. So basically, it's piloting the inverse FEM model, so to counter the error that we observe. And we need to update this inverse problem that with a forward model of the robot. So, it was short. the idea is to show the results. So the results are not very, in terms of video, it's not very impressive, but in terms of, if you look at the performance, like in position, you see that here is where you should go, and here you have in closed loop, and here you have in open loop. You see that particularly to counter the A1Z, I think it was probably the gravity. You can correct, for instance, the gravity without having taken into account the gravity into the inverse problem. Had more results here. It was more on when you have big motion, so you can correct. So here also you see the response. You see that you are closer to the desired motion with the feedback control compared to the real world. Maxime will show dynamic. No, you are not present. No, really? I think you are present. So you are here just like not serious. And basically, to have something to demonstrate more that is more visible for the visitor. The idea was to show inspection tasks. So, for instance, you need to put the camera in this hole. You need to put the camera under this hole or this hole, and you can pilot basically the end effector towards the position. And here, it's a case where we put a force on the robot, and you see that the control is counter, like acting against the force that the user is applying. And basically, what we did is that we also implemented this with haptic rendering. So basically, here we also use the measurement of the position, and when the position of the device is not too far from the model of the robot, we suppose that we don't have to give any force. But if you apply force, the user can feel it because there is a big difference between the model and the real device. And in that case, we measure. Yeah. And Bruno is it's not very sure. And so next, the goal is to replace this by a soft robot to really close the. Okay, that's it. So if you want to have more information, you can go on our website. We have a software and tutorial. Particularly, we have here we have binaries that you can download that we developed for our conference where we did a tutorial. And the tutorial is on hands-on soft robotics. We have a website dedicated to that. You can really learn how to use our algorithm. And we organize, as Hugo told, we organize a workshop next week. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So if you wanna ask some questions, I suggest we can make them during the coffee. So for the first part, there is Christian still for I think 20 minutes, and you will be back tomorrow and the days after tomorrow. Maxime is also in the room if you wanna get some questions on the robot, which is available in the demonstration room in Lille, so not in Station F. And yeah.